Hey guys, I just finished the video of setting up a daily batch on TraceFinder, but I feel like I'll go ahead and do a calibration batch as well, just to kind of give you both perspectives. If you watched the last video, so we always start in this acquisition tab to create our batches. I just opened TraceFinder up and then I will click on the calibration tab this time. And here again, it brings up all of, it's pre-programmed to bring up the 30 calibrated compounds that we have. One thing I didn't quite point out is that this is your method. So this is a pre-programmed method that we've created. So usually we'll just use whatever's defaulted, but they can change, but usually once we find a method that works, we pretty much stick to it. So just go with your default unless for some reason it's been changed. And you can see here, it'll tell you which method that is default set at. So again, we will go up to batch folder and we will create, or we will open up the month that we're in. So we're in June, and then I usually just call it the calibration and the date. So we can just do today's date. Okay, and then we'll click next. And here you'll see that the pre-loaded samples are in there. And again, you can change them as needed. But when you run a calibration, I always start with a blank. Then you can go ahead and run your levels 1 through 5. At least one more blank, you can run it. And then you should do a CCV as well. And that's kind of your just general setup for running a calibration. So if you see here, the sample type is already loaded as a cal standard, and it's programmed them to these specific levels. So that's, there's another, if you go to the method, it's telling the software what those levels mean, like what's the concentration of each level. So that's why that's important, is somewhere else it's telling it what that means. So it's good to kind of keep that consistent. So yeah, if whatever's set up for yours, if that works for you, you can go ahead and use it. If you need to change anything, like, okay, maybe I would rather have a blank at the end as well. So I can go ahead and add a sample here. Oh, if I click that, it's going to add 5. So I need to change that back to a 1. So click that and do 1. You can also right click and do add sample. If you do insert sample, it'll actually add it to the row before the one you're selected on. So if we did insert, it would then put it there. But I'm just gonna remove that one there. Yes. So now and then we can change this to a link 4. And I will mention also that even though these are all blanks, they do have to have unique file names. So that's why it's just put 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, _1. Whatever you prefer, but it won't let you save it until they have different names under those fields. So for the file position, I will have to add number 10. One trick is that actually, if you if you added a bunch, instead of going through each one to type the next number, you can right click and do fill down, and that will auto populate. I know that didn't look very good because you couldn't tell. Here, I'll just show you because I find it exciting that you can do this. So say we're here and we do fill down, then it'll populate. So it's kind of a neat feature. That way you don't have to waste time filling in file positions. Just seeing what other, none of those really are too important. So anyway, so that is how you would edit that, and you would just go to next. And if you watch the previous video, you'll see that my GC is not working right now. So this should be green. So when you get to this stage, you do want to make sure that all of these are green circles here. And also up here would be green. So right now they're not, but that's okay. We're not going to actually run this. So I will click save, and it will go ahead and save that batch. If I go down to the bottom left for analysis, then I can see it pulled up with our previous daily sequence, but I actually want to open the calibration now. So if I go to open batch, I have to select the calibration file that I just created. And here we go. It brings us to the one we just made. And I didn't quite explain some of these other tabs, so I'll do that right now. So the acquisition is going to tell, so once I hit start, this would actually populate with the whatever sample it's currently running. You can stop or pause the acquisition. I don't recommend that because I feel like it kind of sends them all into a, they kind of get mad at us when you start changing if you don't need to. So preferably don't stop and start as need, or, you know, unless you absolutely have to. But so anyway, that would be listed here under acquisition. For instruments, this just tells you whether this is your GC or your mass spec, whether they're, if they say ready to download, then they are connected and they're ready to go, which again, my GC is not, so don't think that that's normal. That's not normal. And here you'll see, you can click on your ISQ, which would be the mass spec. It could be a DSQ for some sites. And you would see set point temperatures that the method is, you know, programmed for these specific parameters to reach these temperatures. And so you can see, compare what they actually are and what they're set to. And then for your GC, obviously we're not connected, but if you needed to look through and see different temperatures, and you can also look at flows and that sort of thing. So it's just nice, especially if you need to troubleshoot or just make sure all of your parameters are where they need to be. For queues, you can actually sync this up to run multiple batches in a row. But we don't normally do that, but if you needed to, so if you were to have submitted this batch and then you go and open a different batch folder and submit that batch, then this won't change. So it'll actually have, you know, the first one you selected and then the second one you selected. So it would give you the queue of what's coming next. But the acquisition is what's actually running at the moment. So it's just nice to see. Or sometimes if you've had issues with the software and you've closed out of it and, you know, you try to start a new run and for some reason it tries to run something from a previous batch, you might go here and look at the queue list and you'll see that that old run is still programmed in the queue. So you can click on it and I believe there's like either an end or like a delete queue button that pops up when you click on it. So it's good to know, like, if, you know, if something's not working correctly, then you can kind of go to this, it's called the real-time status toolbar here. If you accidentally close out of that, it is actually here that populates it. So that can kind of come and go as you need if you like a little more room to look at things. But I like to kind of keep it there at all times. And when you're actually running, this will actually pull up your live chromatogram, your tick. So it's kind of nice if if you're waiting and you want to watch it and make sure your peaks are coming through or something, that gives you the live feed. But once it's over, then the only way to look at them is through the report view, which I'll do a different video to show how to check data.